Hey, what's up, guys? It's Grayson the Dean 221 Nichols here on the Elite Rounders YouTube channel, and we're back again with this week's new episode of Poker After Dark. We lost Jonathan Little at the beginning of the episode, so we are down to 5 players. Sam Soverel, tough high-stakes professional. Jake Daniels, newcomer on the scene. Chris Johnson, tough regular, who I mentioned I've played against a couple times. Really just good professional, a little under the radar. Alex Ding, good professional, also crypto investor, and Justin Young, also a solid professional. So you got a tough table. Today's action was pretty cool. Things really ramped up. They raised the blinds later on in the episode, so the action started flying. So let's hop right into this. But today's hand's a little interesting. Not only do we get a classic King King versus Jack Jack setup on a low board, but there's also an interesting dynamic going on here that I want to talk about with bet sizing, and especially exploitative bet sizing. So let's hop right into the hand, and I'll explain it as we go along. So action's still 50-100, and Justin straddles under the gun to 200, excuse me. Sam goes ahead and raises to 450 with the jacks. Chris picks up kings in the small blind and puts in a 3-bet to 2.2k, which looks good. Justin, of course, goes ahead and folds, and Sam calls with his jacks. Everything pretty standard up to this point. So the flop sorts get really interesting, essentially. So the flop comes 7 high, right? And this is what immediately made me perk up when I was watching this episode. Chris bets out 7,000 here, right? So let's talk about this bet for a second. To the untrained eye, someone might be like, oh, he's playing it scared, right? I have a lot of students who do too large of sizing when it comes to things like aces. They'll bet pot, because they get nervous. They remember getting sucked out on with their aces, and they have, a negative reinforcement, so they bet bigger to protect themselves more, right? Typically, that's wrong, because then you are going to lose value from hands that you need to call, right? That's not what's happening here, though. Chris is not scared by any means. This is two very smart players battling each other who understand what's going on, right? This is not, in fact, not only is it not fear, but this is an exploitative bet by Chris. And let me tell you why. What Chris is doing here is he is basically saying if Sam has pocket 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, he's going to get paid. He might even get all of Sam's stack at that point, right? If Sam had a hand like ace queen, ace jack, maybe with one naked club, he'll probably lose action from those hands, but is it that big of a deal? Could he have gotten more than one bullet anyway? Probably not, right? So this is a way that you protect against some of the draws and hands that have backdoor equity, maybe like an ace jack of diamonds that you don't really love being in there. And then you also maximize your value against the potent part of his range that you're dominating. 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, right? So this all goes back to something I mentioned in a lot of our videos, right? Where I'm always saying, range your opponents. The better you get at ranging your opponents, the easier this game becomes, right? And I believe Chris had a spot-on feel for Sam's range here, that a lot of Sam's range was consisting of 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, maybe queens. He might have 4-bet queens pre-flop. And so Chris felt that he could get maximum value from him with this bet. So this is a really cool adjustment, a good exploit in a spot where you feel confident about your opponent's range. So again, range, range, range. It's all about what they have. When you have a good feel for what your opponents have, it will essentially dictate your actions and your plan later on, right? So really cool bet by Chris. I think it makes a ton of sense. Again, it folds out stuff like an ace jack of diamonds, which would be fine for us. If we bet small here, he's not going to raise really ever. He would just end up calling most of his range. So this seems like an awesome bet based on the fact that and the reason I put him on that specific range, or Chris did probably, is because of his call preflop. Like, this was a big 3-bet from Chris. Sam's range to call is going to include a lot of, middle pairs up the jacks. It's going to include some suited royalty. So I think this is a really astute read on Chris's part, pegging Sam, not just exactly for what he had, but it wasn't just jacks. If he had 10s, 9s, 8s here, he would not be able to escape. So really savvy bet by Chris. This is a spot I want you guys to keep an eye out for. And the way you will spot these situations is by continuously working on ranging your opponents. The better you get at that, the quicker you will be able to adopt outside of the box contrarian plays like Mr. Johnson in this spot. So Sam, of course, calls. The hand plays out a little funky, but I think the real inflection point was that flop I want to share with you guys. Chris checks on the turn, which seems fine here. I think when Sam calls, a lot of his range might look like things like an ace queen of clubs, ace jack of clubs, so I could see that. Sam bets small here. Chris goes ahead and calls, also standard. And then on the river, Chris checks, and Sam thinks about it for a second, but decides to check back. I wonder if this is a spot where Sam was considering turning his hand into a bluff, but then quickly realized with the less than half pot bet he had remaining, he wasn't going to make Chris fold anything, right? Chris even said afterward, though, he let out a sigh of relief because he did not want to see the bet in that spot. So, interesting hand. I could see the turn and river play out differently in some spots. It's cool, though, to see two elite players and try to get into their mindset. I think it's important to do that. Don't necessarily always try to use what they do in smaller stakes tournaments that you might be in, but try to apply the principles, right? And the principle at hand here is being so confident about your opponent's range that you're able to take an exploitative line and make an overbet to take advantage of what they have specifically. So this is a really cool hand. Really dug this episode. I'm excited to watch the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, check out all our videos on the YouTube Elite Rounders channel. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, we'll have a new Poker After Dark recap, and the new High Stakes Poker episode recap will be on Thursday. So I'll see y'all for that, and best of luck this week, everyone. Take care. Bye.